You're watching Time and Tide, because watches aren't boring.
Do we even need to do an intro for this? We're talking about the top 5 Rolex watches of 2021. What else do you need to know? You know what? I feel mean today. I'm going to make you wait a little while before we get to that top 5. I'm going to ask you what you're wearing in a very appropriate way because I'm talking about your watch. I am wearing the latest GMT Master 2 Pepsi in a vastly improved Generation 2 bicolor ceramic bezel in navy and burgundy red. If you do tell me, there will be a reward. Answer below and tell us what you think of the new Rolex releases, and we will send out to you a Time+Tide magazine pack, including the completely sold out, never to be reprinted edition 1, unless we do print it again. And another tradition at Time+Tide in the top 5 is to have a fake special guest come up from nowhere. I'd like to welcome Mr. Michael Bublé. Who needs Michael Bublé when you have Eric Ku, one of the world's most famous and foremost watch collectors from California in the United States of America? You might remember Eric from the time he donated this gorgeous Rolex to our bushfire auction in January of last year.
And I am donating to this worthwhile cause a Rolex reference 1601 two-tone Datejust retailed by Tiffany & Company.
I asked Eric what, if anything, surprised him about the new Rolex releases.
And I think the two-tone Explorer was a bit of a surprise, right?
Really was.
As was the step down in size back to 36, which personally I love, but I know, a lot of people like bigger watches, but I like that, I like the fact that, to me, I've always told people that 36 is the golden size, and they got it right in the 50s when they came out with that size.
The second question I had was a simple one. What was his favorite release of the year?
Rolex has always used the meteorite dial in they always come out with a beautiful product with it. The first, the Rolex movie, the 1165, whatever, Daytonas, they had the meteorite dial on a leather strap. Then they started doing day dates and so on and so forth. They've always been great. It's a logical thing. We all know the GMT meteorite dial was like an insane hit, right? So obviously this was like a logical thing. And I think it's quite nice that they iterated on it and have, several different versions and all the different metals with the meteorite dial, added on top of an already luxurious watch, but also for like an incrementally small amount of money, if that makes sense. Like the meteorite dial upcharge is, I don't know, like $1,000 or $2,000 or something like that. And that's like not a lot, I mean, I think that's like a kind of an interesting thing.
Well, now it's time for the top 5. Let's do it.
I feel that the Explorer 1 going back down to a 36 is a nod to the fact that I think both men and women buy this watch. And also a nod to their tradition. When they went to the Day-Date 2, it's like, okay, we made it a little too big. So you know what? We got to dial it down and bring it down to 40. But at the same time, they would never, ever, ever discontinue the classic 36 Day-Date, And I think, look, when they, in the 50s, decided on that 36mm case, they hit it right the first time. And anything that they do subsequent to that is to capture like another piece of the demographic. But like the 36, I really think is the sweet spot. And the two-tone is also, it's kind of like an incremental upgrade. It's like the guy who doesn't want to splurge on the gold, but wants something a little more special than like a steel one,
Yeah.
It's all about like a play on light, Rolex, although they seem very basic, their mastery of gem setting is really spectacular, and they do it, in my eyes, better than any other manufacturer. Okay. And then, there's something about, I imagine that these palm frond dials or whatever they are, when they come out, it's like one color, one consistent green or yellow or whatever it is. And they use some sort of a laser etching to change the way the light plays off of the thing, so that it's like, so that you have this opposing two things, but when you look at them, they're really the same tone. It's just a play on the light. You know,
Yeah.
it's like when you're a kid, your mom vacuums the carpet and it's perfect, and you step on it, you see the steps because where you stepped, it's kind of going the wrong way, and it's not going with the grain or something. You know, it's like a play on that. I feel like we're so jaded right now because we, and probably the viewership that will be viewing this video, we're more collectors than consumers, if you will. And I think that, you know, people like to say mean things about watches like this, or, you know, make some snarky comments about it, you know, to themselves or their friends on social media. But, you know, from a manufacturing and from a business standpoint, this is what people want, you know? I think collectors may represent a tiny fraction of actual buyers of Rolex watches. And this is something that will sell, you know? I mean, it's a boring watch, but it's like you always had that fancy uncle when we were growing up that had a two-tone Datejust, you know? He wasn't a CEO, otherwise he'd be wearing a Day-Date, but you know, he had that kind of fancy uncle wearing the two-tone. And this is like appealing to like those type of people, you know? Nothing wrong with it. The watch is a smart business decision. It looks smart, and I think it's okay, you know? The Explorer 2, I think, is I mean, I guess now it's different because they have bigger watches. They have like deep seas and stuff like that, but it's the steel utility watch for that guy that wants a Rolex, but doesn't want the one with the spinning thing around. You know what I mean? It's like, it satisfies a market need, I feel like, in that, you know, some people, whatever, you know, that are not sophisticated watch people, I've heard from many people, I don't like the spinning thing around the watch, obviously the bezel, but this is like, you know, it's another flavor, you know? Is it offensive? I don't think so. Is it my favorite watch? No, it's not, but it's a very vanilla and safe watch, you know?
Do you think all of those changes will be really noticeable?
I don't think they'll be really noticeable, but I think not in terms of like the visual cues, but I think if you're a person that wears one watch 365 days a year, like I think you will notice it as you're wearing it, but not when you're examining them in your hands, you know? Because like I always joke, like the sport watches of, let's say 4 years ago, you look at the lineup, they had like one kind of generic case that was like the maxi case for the GMT, the sub, you know, it was like probably literally the exact same case. It makes sense from an industrialized production perspective, but you know, things need to be a little bit different. I think they realized this, and then they realized that it was a little too chunky, and then massaged it, like I said, slightly so that your eyes might not perceive it, but at the same time, if you're like a daily wearer of it, it will make you feel more comfortable, you know? I think you see on Instagram, I think I did it myself. It's like people were swapping the bezels around and being like, hey, wouldn't this be great if it was on an Oyster bracelet or Jubilee or whatever? And this is, again, giving people what they want, right? I mean, it didn't make sense to me that they would only make a GMT on like a Jubilee bracelet or something. You know what I mean? And I think, again, this is just a logical progression, you know? I mean, if they wanted to appeal to collectors, and what they would be doing is making everything limited to 500 a year, and then, you know, like, doing all these silly things, but Rolex doesn't do that. They, to me, like I've said many times, they're the pinnacle of like, I don't want to say mass manufacture, but they're the pinnacle of like a manufactured product, you know? And that's what they are. They don't make 30,000 watches. They make whatever, 1 million a year or something, you know?